Another day, another 17 AI announcements, something like that. Welcome back to the Idea Supply Chain, where we take a look at where ideas come from and what makes those ideas valuable. Wanted to share a couple big updates. Not quite 17. I just wanted to focus on two. So, first up in new model news, the company Mistral, a French AI company who has been working on open source models, has released Mistral 2, which is its flagship model. So, Llama 3.1, open source, flagship, launched last week. Mistral 2, also launched last week. And I haven't had a chance to play around with Mistral yet. But early indications seem like it's probably around the same level as GPT-4o, as Llama 3.1, as Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Also, can we get some like Semver or something going on for the versioning? This is getting a little ridiculous, but hey, I digress. Anyway, so another open source model with advanced capabilities. Also coming in with 128K context window for tokens. That seems to be pretty standard. Claude is at the like 200,000 level. But 128,000, honestly, it's a lot of tokens. And I found that you're actually better off a lot of times not using a giant context, except in very specific instances. The better you can do of narrowing down the context that you're working with, the better. But that being said, we're programmers, we're lazy, we like doing shit all at once. And so, bigger context windows mean we can do more stuff at once. Perfect. It is interesting, actually, to kind of see how this is all developing because there are a lot of improvements coming from kind of all these different models all the time. And, I honestly do believe that we're going to run into a limit with what we're able to do with the transformer technology. And I think we're getting relatively close now. I think we're going to get incremental improvements. But frankly, I don't see GPT-5 being what people are expecting. And I don't think that it's going to do that because of the limitations I've mentioned in previous videos, where I talk about, like one of the issues that we're having is the data that we're using. We're trying to do all sorts of things to increase the data that we have access to, because that's pretty much how you get bigger models. You throw more data at it and you train it on different things. But I think that's actually not really going to work at these large scales. I think the answer isn't more data, it's less. And so I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot more work done on fine tuning. And this may be how ChatGPT or GPT or OpenAI rather, really gets that GPT-5 level capabilities. I think it's going to be a lot of smaller fine-tuned models around specific capabilities working in a network. I believe intelligence is a function of network, not individuals, and this goes for people and models. So when you're trying to add new capabilities to an AI model, you're going to have a lot more success by networking various capabilities or various models with different capabilities, working together in concert to solve shared objectives versus having one giant model handle everything. And I don't have any insight into how OpenAI does things under the hood. They haven't invited me yet. Sam, if you're listening, call me. But I honestly don't think that they're going to be able to compress everything completely like that. I just don't think that's how it works. And I've seen some insights into this type of stuff with Llama, for example, because of how they have it set up with the Llama Guard, I believe it's called, and how they're thinking about basically layering things around the model that allow for interchangeable guards and just kind of function calling and that sort of things. Basically, it's like yes-anding the model. So you kind of have the model at its base, and then very specific things added on top of it that kind of give it these additional capabilities. They set limitations, things like that. That's a lot more in line with how I envision things happening. Um, but that's enough on the model news. Now we're going to shift over to product news. And it's again OpenAI with the search. So Search GPT is the new tool functionality product that OpenAI has announced. Basically, it's a competitor of Perplexity. It's, AI powered search. Now, again, I kind of think that OpenAI is trying to do too many things here, but they've got a giant budget, so that's what they're going to do. I think with search, like with the models, what we're going to see is one solution isn't going to be sufficient because guess what? People don't rank things the same way. Say it again. People do not rank things the same way. What that means is that what one person is looking for and what another person is looking for may come back with the same results, but end up with very different decisions in terms of what they went with. And so I think being able to understand what goes into the search process and who's doing the ranking is something that AI isn't going to actually be great at doing. It'll be able to simulate human preferences, but it won't have human preferences. So what we're going to see is we're actually going to see, again, kind of going back to the idea of networks, we're going to see networks of individual preferences that people use to help them make their own decisions. This goes back to, my belief that we're undervaluing humans and overvaluing data. And so what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to simulate these human preferences as a way to build out products, and those are going to be limited. People are already starting to trust people. They've been moving away from Google for a while now. And yes, there's kind of this explosion around using like ChatGPT and everything to surface answers. But when people are looking for recommendations, they don't go to Google because a lot of times they can't trust the information that's coming back. There's too many conflicting incentives there. And so, are the reviews fake? I don't know. It's hard to tell. And in fact, I saw Peter Levels talking on Twitter about how this idea of rating inflation has taken place, where basically, you've got ratings 4 and 4 is terrible and 5 is amazing. And basically, my whole thing there is anytime you have these types of rating systems, you need some sort of calibration there. And you need calibration between the different people ranking it. And you can't do that when you don't have some way to tell like what that rating means. And so as an AI search engine, okay, maybe you can actually build this functionality in. And I don't think this is necessarily what they're going to do, but if they were smart, they'd do it. And if you're smart, maybe you'll build it. Basically, I believe that you should be able to take a bunch of reviews and then normalize them against some sort of rating system. And so, when I was helping interview people, one of the things I realized is when you're trying to compare like the scores of somebody like during an interview process, what I think is like, an excellent rating and what someone else thinks is an excellent rating are two very different things unless you actually define it, and then you have to calibrate it. And so one of the things that we did is we performed a lot of interviews and we discussed it and we developed like a very specific rubric around what each score represented. What are we looking for, and how did this candidate deliver based on exactly what we've specified that we're looking for? It takes out a lot of the guesswork and helps you kind of calibrate on what these scores actually mean. And I think we're going to see that with products compiling human recommendations and basically saying, hey, this is actually our scoring rubric, and here's what goes into it. And it's kind of like the idea of Michelin stars, right? So, Michelin has the rankings that they put out. They've set the criteria as to what is required to get these, and then a bunch of people use those scores to help determine what restaurants they go to. I think we're going to see something like Michelin stars, but for pretty much everything. There's going to be very specific rankings that end up showing, um, what people actually prefer, because it's really hard to evaluate something from a place of zero knowledge. If I'm trying to rate food, I like food, but I don't understand a lot of like the intricacies of it. I can't describe complex flavor profiles and match, what goes with what. I can tell you if I like something or not. That's about it. And so understanding the details that go into, you know, what makes something good or not, the critical elements, is a matter of expertise and experience. And when you can take that and figure out a way to translate, a bunch of unsophisticated reviews, put it through this filter of expert knowledge, and come out with a normalized rating system based on very specific criteria, now we're talking. Now things start to get very, very interesting. And this is why I don't think Search GPT is going to be the big player that OpenAI thinks it might be. I actually think that's why Perplexity is probably going to run into more issues than they think too. I think there's a lot of good things around AI-based search and ways that we can filter out a lot of the crap that's out there, which, ultimately that's really the biggest issue right now, is filtering out the crap. But it's going to end up coming back more to humans than it is AI. AI can be used to help humans, but like everything I do, I talk about human-centric AI products. And this is the idea again, understanding what it is people are actually looking for, as opposed to trying to have these giant solutions that fit every possible use case. That just doesn't make any sense, because people value different things in different ways. And, trying to just mash together all sorts of viewpoints and reviews and everything where nothing has been normalized, you're going to get skewed data, because more people are unskilled than there are skilled in anything. So when you're taking mass amounts of data from people, you have to figure out ways to normalize it against people who know what they're talking about. And this is where I think a lot of the AI issues end up coming up, a lot of the hallucinations, things like that, because we try to just learn everything from everyone, except everyone doesn't know everything. So that doesn't quite work out. Turns out we get a weird approximation of humans in there. People talk a lot about, their experience with AI, and frankly, that tells me a lot more about the people than it does about the AI. But hey, there's a lot of communication that comes into this, and whether it's in the models themselves or it's the people using the models, we can't get away from the fact that we are human and we have very specific limitations in what we know and how we use products. And so we're going to see a shift towards these AI-based products, but I don't think they're going to look a lot like what most people building these products think they're going to look like. And that's why a lot of what I'm building doesn't look like the other things that you see on the market, because I think most people are doing it wrong. That's my personal knowledge that I've gained through years of experience with it. So, if you want me to help, feel free to reach out, because I do want to make more products human-centric in nature. But ultimately, we're going to see a different world of the internet. And I think it's going to end up really embodying people at its heart, because people are what make the internet valuable, not AI. And so even with all these AI announcements, in the end, it always comes down to people. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.